This is a list of things not to do in an RV, and there's good reasons not to do this, so let's get started. So number one item is, and a lot of people do this, and it's easy to do, is overloading their RV. And it all depends on, like this RV, it only has 500 pounds weight capacity. I am really limited on what I can put in here. And I know I'm really pushing that, but it's really key not to overload it because your axles are designed for a maximum amount of weight. And let's say your axle is 3,500 pounds and your RV weighs 3,000 pounds. That means you have 500 pounds of extra weight you can put on that axle. And that is pretty much it, because these axles, the bearings will overheat and you're going to smoke a bearing and you're going to, tires are going to fly off. So you really need to watch the maximum load capacity. And you also need to make sure that you spread the load out throughout the RV pretty good. And I'm not saying, I don't really want to say spread it out evenly through the RV. What I really want to say is try your best to put your load in the middle of the RV and not load up those undercarriage compartments in the front of the RV, and try your best not to load up the back, because you're already loading the front and then you put stuff in the back and you're going to get this massive pendulum effect, which causes all the sway going down the highway. So if you can do your best to put heavier items in the middle of your RV, like underneath the chairs or something in the middle of the RV, or even just putting it in the hallway of your RV, try to put those heavy items in the middle. And then those big bulky items you can put under the bed, under the front of the RV. That way your heavy weights are all here. And then when your RV is going down the road, it doesn't get that massive swinging effect. It really, believe it or not, it cuts it down a ton, because I, just like everybody else, before I loaded up my front carriage area, and I had a couple things underneath the seats in the RV, which is the middle, and I had a lot of sway. And I was like, what can I do to stop this? And I watched all the videos. And I did what they told me to. I took those heavy weighted items, I put them in the middle. And the next time I went down the road, it was like 95% gone. I mean, it was really low, the amount of sway I got. You'll always get sway in a travel trailer. It's, you get wind. It's just going to happen. A tractor trailer goes by. You're still going to get a little bit of sway. But to cut down so much that I wasn't worried about any of it anymore, even during, a storm. That made a big difference. So the carrying your load in the middle is a big difference. And just put the heavier items in the middle. So number two is make sure you do not neglect maintenance. Now, on a travel trailer, there's not a lot of maintenance. It's pretty low. It's pretty much your wheels, check your leaf springs or your coil spring, whatever suspension you have. So make sure you check those springs and everything to make sure they're good shape, and re-grease your bearings, at least once a year. And check your tires, make sure they're good, not cracking. Check the little date code on the tire to make sure that your tires are within, technically it's supposed to be 5 years and you're supposed to replace the tire, and there's a date code on the tire. And we know RVs, sometimes they're sitting next to your house and that rubber is dry rotting and they look like a brand new tire, but they're starting to crack. You go down the road and it's going to blow a tire on you. So really pay attention to that year of that tire. And like I said, the rubber will tell you what year it was made. It'll tell you the month and the year. And another thing is, check your plumbing, make sure everything looks good, because some of these fittings are, almost all of them are plastic. And just check them to see if there's any vibrations or anything's going on, if you have any leaks. And also screws. So this is a neat thing I found out. As well as I know, these screws on the outside of the RV that's holding everything together, I got the steel or aluminum panels on the outside, and those screws pop off. What I found, it's a really neat trick, and I've had it on there a few years now, and it seems perfectly fine. I use those deck screws, the ones that are about 1.5 inches long, and I use those, maybe they're 1.25 inches, but I use those deck screws to re-screw on the aluminum outside paneling to the RV. And what I do is, like if this is the paneling, I don't put the screw straight in. I take the screw and I put it at an angle, and I go through the original hole and I go in, and what that does is any vibration, it's not trying to back out the screw straight. It's trying to do this. And because it's doing that, it stays in. I put them on there a couple years ago. They have not moved since. They're not moving. And the reason why I say use deck screws is because they're coated with a material that shouldn't rust to when it's touching the aluminum. So it's a little bit of extra protection so they don't rust away. So that's a good tip. I've done it and it's holding up really, really well. Another maintenance thing is make sure that when you're parking your RV, make sure you're parking it on a solid surface like concrete or board or something that's solid and dry, because you don't want your tire treads to be taking the form of whatever it's sitting on, because it's going to sit there. You know, if your RV's sitting all winter, it's going to be molding into what that shape is, and it can deform your tires a little bit. So make sure you're parking it on a nice flat surface. Even if you take a, you know, like what I do, I take a 2x6 and it's about this big, and I just make sure I drive it on that. It gets it off the ground and it gives it a nice flat surface to drive on. So another main rule, and this is not really related to maintenance or anything, but it's just a general rule: obey the campgrounds. So when a campground has this list of rules, and 99% of the campgrounds are all the same, it's pretty much ethics rules of, you know, don't be a jerk, don't do this, you know, respect your neighbors. And if you don't obey the rule, then they can kick you out because it's their property. They own it. And if you know, for any reason at all, technically they can kick you out for anything. It's their property. So just obey the rules of the campground. And kind of, you know, what I always do is I kind of brush over to see what the things are. And if there's something that stands out that's different from another campground, usually they have it pretty bold, like, we don't allow this. So, you know, I know you should read the whole rule thing, but you know how it is. I just kind of brush over it and I see one that stands out and I go, okay, that wasn't on the other campground. So that's the one I kind of follow. Another rule is do not leave those awnings deployed. Don't leave your awning out ever. And let me rephrase that. Don't leave it out while you're not home, because you can be gone even just walking down the road and a storm comes in like that. And now your awning is destroyed. It's ripped the side of your RV off. So it can happen really, really fast. I didn't do it in the awning, but I was actually on a sailboat once and a storm rolled in, and within 10 minutes, my sail on my sailboat was sailing nice to, it was driving me 25, 30 mile an hour down the bay, and it scared the heck out of me. But I was going so fast that there was a boat trying to catch up to save me. But the boat was going crazy. Anyway, dangerous storms can roll in really fast. So just make sure you keep that awning in when you are not at the RV, because it can tear it off in a minute. Now, I do have a little bit of a gray area, and this is just me. To your own discretion, do this. I generally just leave it out like that far, just a little bit, because that little bit, in my situations, it's never been a problem. You know, a little bit of wind hitting it, never been a problem, and then I can just roll it out when I get home. So I've been fine with that. That's on your own discretion on that part. Another problem is overlooking campground leveling. And the reason why this is important is that refrigerator. And the reason why that's really important is if you have a 12-volt refrigerator and those items, they're not as important. But if you have one of those refrigerators that runs off of propane, then even if you're not running on the propane, it's using that system. And you need to make sure that it is level, because it really matters if the fluids inside got to flow up and flow down at a certain level for it to work right. So that refrigerator really requires that RV to be level. And another thing that really requires leveling is these air conditioners on the roof. They have drain holes for the water to come out, and those roofs are flat. You know, except for a little bit of curve, they're generally flat. And if your RV isn't level, the water can't get out of the air conditioner on the roof. So it'll just puddle up there, and then it's going to go inside any crack it can find, and after time it's going to destroy your roof. And same with window units, window air conditioners. You really need that RV to be level, because it is designed to be level so it can do its proper draining. So that's just really good important things of being level. And I know sometimes you go to a campground, you're like, oh, it's pretty close. Just get that little bit more and get level, because those items are very important for leveling. So that's the core items for, trying to make sure that you do everything right in the world, and follow these rules, and it'll kind of help you out in the long run of camping and enjoying, this experience. So that's it for this episode. And again, you like what we're doing, please subscribe, because you all make it happen. I know it's kind of weird of me to put this at the end, but I do it at the end because I want only people who really want to watch my stuff to subscribe. If you're just kind of scanning things, I don't care. Go somewhere else. But if you're really watching my stuff, please subscribe, because it means you are very interested in this stuff, and I want to get more information over to you. So we'll see you next episode.